I'm joined now by mixed media artist and educator Hannah Burnworth. Hannah, thank you for being here. I can't wait to talk about your work because it reminds me of my grandmother was an artist, and it reminds me some of your collage stuff of my grandma's work, which just holds such a special place. When did you start expressing yourself artistically?
Well, thanks a lot. I love being here. I'm excited
good,
to talk to you.
good.
I always loved creating. I don't think I ever thought of myself as a creator or artist till later in life, but that's how I spent my time. That's how I spent my time as a kid. I would go to my grandma's house with all my cousins, and she would say, cut up these seed catalogs and rearrange them into a bouquet for me. And so those are the first real collages I remember making.
Yeah.
And then my grandma was kind of hardcore. She was like, I'll give everyone a grade when they get done. And I would get an A, and my cousins would get like C's and stuff. I was like, geez, Grandma, I must be good at this. So that was one way that I remember connecting to it as a kid. And then just being successful in that in school. I think one of my first art teachers that I can remember, Mr. Hochsteller, he was my elementary school art teacher, and he just encouraged me, and I painted some, I think, watercolor eggs. There were like 3 eggs on a page. I have no idea where the painting went. I just know it got hung in the hallway, and he told me how good it was.
Yes.
And, you know, I think when you find something that you really have a passion in, and you feel like you're good at it, and you feel encouraged by someone, that's like a really formative experience.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
So what medium did you initially kind of dive into, or were you always kind of dabbling in various?
I started by drawing, which I think is the foundation of most things, being able to take your ideas and put them somewhere and put them down physically.
Yeah.
So I kind of started with drawing, and that quickly transitioned into painting. And so most of my undergraduate work was mostly drawing and painting. I'm more comfortable in a two-dimensional world, although that's changing, and I have to teach everything.
Yeah.
So that, you know, helps to inform it. But yeah, that's where I started. And then when I was pregnant, actually, I'd done many drawings and paintings by that time, but I wanted some little tiny things that I could cut and snip and take with me and take in a bag, and nothing was toxic, and I didn't have to clean it up.
Yeah.
And that's actually when I made the shift to cutting a lot of paper.
Yeah.
It's just easier and accessible. There's always paper around.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it was out of necessity that I switched to mixed media collage and stitching on paper. And
So I was going to ask you about that. At what point did the stitching come in? Because that is a whole different layer.
So it kind of went drawing to painting to paper. And then the stitching was at first a solution. It was just a solution to holding 2 things together with, you know, thread. And then the thread became a real element of the piece. And then the thread became both of those things, a physical part holding it together and this kind of figurative story. And then, you know, when I became a mother and you're stitching everyone's lives together and holding everyone's lives together and binding yourself together, it's just, it becomes a good metaphorical tool.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, that's kind of the progress it took. And now it's just a lot of paper and some paint and that stitching and everything I've done. And I think each year it becomes more layered. So I'm actually working out into space more and more. And
So when you are going to put together a mixed media collage, how does that start out in your brain? Do you see it sort of first as a drawing and then you're...
Well, there's 2 ways of working. You can have a plan.
Please articulate
Yeah,
for me.
no, I got it. You can have a plan and follow that plan. And oftentimes if I'm doing a commission or if I've done a piece before that somebody wants something similar, I'll follow that plan and I'll cut the pieces to shape and whatever. That's rarely how I work. I usually work intuitively. Like I have this giant box of stuff, or somebody bought me a piece of paper I really like, or somebody mailed something in this envelope that I really like, or whatever, and I have this piece that I'm like, ooh, that looks like or that could be on a table, or that could be this.
Right.
And so I like the material first, and then I will just arrange and design. And I like to design. I mean, most of my work kind of comes from that like designer's sort of, base.
Yeah.
Where you kind of arrange and rearrange. And really, a lot of the paintings I cut up are mine, and a lot of the paintings I cut up are my students that they put in the recycle bin.
Oh.
A lot of fabric I have or old paper I have is given to me, predominantly paper, but really you could say that most of what I move around is created already. I'm just designing and redesigning.
So is everything you look at like potentially a piece of art? Is that how your brain works? That like, oh, that could be this, or
kind of like I just might just. This might be in a piece.
The cork. You know what? I don't
the
have
cork.
the authority to give you that, but I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah, no, the cork could be. So yeah, I mean, really, I'm always on a scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
But like, you might think, oh, she's a hoarder. she's gonna. But I actually am really intentional about what I save and how I save it and where I put it, because think about all the brushes that you have with paper every day. How many times you see paper? You're gift wrapping, you're getting your mail. Now you went and signed, a receipt somewhere. There are so many opportunities to accumulate, which from your, kids bringing things home.
Yes.
And
God, yes.
there are like the possibility of paper is infinite because it's cost effective,
right,
and it's used all the time. So you have to be kind of careful if you're going to be a paper artist, or you're going to have so much material that you'll never.
So do you have rules for yourself? Like do you have to have an idea for it to save it, or how does that work?
I kind of have rules. Like I keep this big drawer and I separate by color. And then I keep a box of things I've already pre-worked that I know are already super textured and they've been stitched on and I hated them and I chopped them back up, or like, because those are like the frosting, right?
Yeah.
So like if I can kind of color work and respond to these things in my drawers, and then I take my big box of things, and then those are my frosting, that's kind of how I do it.
Okay, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you have certain things that you prefer to create when it comes to collage?
So subject matter for me has always been sort of tough because I am so into the material and the way the material is created and how it holds together and what these papers are, that I honestly could create anything. Somebody could be like, hey, I want a portrait. Ooh, I want this scene from nature. Oh, I want this. I think my favorite things to create, though, really, if I'm trying to do recognizable subject matter, are vessels and kind of like what's held within them and growth. And I just think it's like one of the most, maybe cliche, but also just accessible for everyone.
Yes.
Every mother has felt like a vessel. Everyone uses them. They all carry some kind of significance. It's part of daily life to use a vessel. You anoint with them, you feed with them, you fill them up, you empty them out. We are all metaphorically vessels. You can make them. Every artist ever has painted a still life. They've looked at things, and so kind of taking that really common thing and making it my own.
How do you find time to work on your personal art when you're also an art teacher?
I used to feel really guilty about working in the classroom, like this is my students' time. Over time and through experience, I learned that they learn when they watch me. They learn when they see me persevere. They learn when they see me not give up. They learn how to make an actual body of work, 50 things instead of one thing.
Right.
And so with my upper level classes, particularly my AP classes and my advanced placement classes, they are so self-sufficient anyway. They're working toward a portfolio anyway. So I kind of have studio time with them. I can make, they can respond, I can crit with them, they can crit me. Students are fabulous critics because they're not pushed in by the ways of the academic world yet, and they can just
Yes.
respond to really what's there.
Yeah.
So I love that. So I actually get to create a little bit during class time, sometimes during my prep time, sometimes after school a little bit. And then usually if I have a show coming up like one night a week or one afternoon, I'll just kind of grind for like stay up really late one night, or I'll do a whole Sunday afternoon into the evening. So
What do you hope your students take away from your class?
well, I hope they share what they learn with somebody. Like I hope they share it with their children or their friends or their family. You know, I teach in a rural environment where really the only diversity is socioeconomic diversity. You know, you have to bring the world in a lot. You know, when a kid tells you, oh, I ran out of puzzles to do, we're not going to Walmart for 2 more months because it's a special trip.
Right.
You know, whoa, you know, that happens.
Yeah.
And so you really have to bring the world back into that. So if they can take that and they can share that with someone else, that's something I want to happen. And then I also want the kids who are the art kids, you know, where that is their passion. What happened to me with those 3 eggs, you know, I want those kids, I want them to find their place there. There are a lot of students who come to school and don't necessarily know their place. School is a consistent place that feeds you. And there are a lot of great things about public school, but it is not real easy place for a lot of kids to be. And so also I like the art room to be a place that's like that, you know, and I give them this speech every semester. Like, you may not like the people that are in here, but you need to check that at the door because this is your new community. And who you're sitting with is going to be, and it's cool. It's cool when they make friends outside of their own friend group, you know. So I like that too. Like,
And a safe space.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you are or what else you've been successful in or not successful in. You're in here now, and we're going to make this a time where you learn something new and you have choices. You get to make choices, and there's no right or wrong. You know, that's so refreshing. Spend a lot of time testing and hammering away at, and that's part of life. You know, it is. But it's nice to have a reprieve from that.
What a gift you give to those students, and what a gift you give to the world with everything you create. It's so beautiful. Like I said, as soon as I saw your collage work, I was like, oh, that reminds me of my grandma, and it's just exquisite. So thank you so much for everything you do, and thanks for coming over today.
Thanks so much.